So here is passage 3 for us that talks about maps and their biases, right? So it starts off by saying that not every corner of the planet is charted. It may seem that we have a map, but the map may not be complete, accurate, or even trustworthy. And thereafter it tells you why the maps are not trustworthy and the kind of biases that exist here. And the reasons behind those biases. And then, people, when you look at a map, you look at your house. So you're looking at the map at the same time you're looking at it from above. So transcendental experience and etc. Then yet another reason for the bias, overestimating the creator's geographic worth, the area that you belong to. And thereafter it goes ahead and talks about the fact that, see, even the digital maps that we have today, they seem to have same issues, same or similar problems. So that's the passage, and let's dive into our question. Sorry. Which one of the following best describes what the passage is trying to do? So this is what a main idea question. So the passage basically is about maps, and it tells us that, see, maps are not completely true and trustworthy because people who've created them have their own biases. Those biases persist even in this age and time, even when it comes to digital maps. So let's start with A. It belies the belief that maps are accurate. To belie is to show something to be false. But then there is no claim made by anyone that maps are accurate that needed to be falsified. So this goes beyond the scope of the passage and therefore can be safely ruled out. Okay, B, it reveals the fact that some areas are still uncharted. Yes, it talks about it at the beginning, but then is that what the passage is trying to do, to tell us that there are regions that are not there? It is going to be, as a main idea, narrow. You can probably attribute this idea to one paragraph, not to the entire passage. That main part about biases is all left out. Okay, see, it tells us why maps are questionable and jaundiced. Jaundiced basically means biased, prejudiced. So this is much better. This is a lot closer to the main idea. Let's have a look at D. It gives reasons as to why map makers place themselves in eminent positions on the map. They're placing themselves at an eminent position in the map is itself offered as a reason to support the fact that map makers were biased. We have no reasons cited for this, so this is once again going to be irrelevant, and that is why the best option for question number 9 should be option C. And here comes the next one. Early pre-digital maps were inaccurate for all the following reasons except. So map makers were biased against certain regions, yes, after World War II. So this is mentioned, this is true. This is one of the reasons for that inaccuracy. We are looking for except. So A can be eliminated. B, map makers frequently overvalued their own regions. Yes, geographical worth, third paragraph beginning, cited as a reason. C, digital technologies were non-existent that time. Yes, they were non-existent, but was that the reason for their being inaccurate? See, even when we have digital tech, the inaccuracies persist, right? So this is not mentioned as a reason for the old maps to be inaccurate, not cited. So this can be an answer. Have a look at D. Map makers wanted to have metaphysical experience with their maps. Yes, themselves at the center, looking from the world from that vantage point. So so yes, that also introduces a reason, can be ruled out. So the best answer is option C. So 10th, C it is. Let's have a look at the next question. According to the passage, what is the fundamental reason for maps being subjective, or in other words, biased in nature? So A, modern technologies, but this is beyond the scope, right? Beyond the scope because even the older maps were inaccurate. So obviously they did not have modern technology. So this cannot be cited as a fundamental reason. This can perhaps be cited as a reason for the modern tech, not for the older maps. B, both map makers and map users alike are egoistic and regard themselves as being very important. Yes, they put themselves as center. Yes, they valued their own regions more. Yes, they allowed their own point of view to color it. Yeah, so this definitely talks about quite a few of the reasons. Yes, let's look at C. Mapping all regions of the world is a Herculean task and not generally profitable for map makers. Okay, but then this does not talk at all about why the maps are subjective or biased and thus can be ruled out. D. Map makers did not wish to map poor and remote regions. That's true, because they were not seen to be worthy. Yes, but then D will explain only the omission of poor and remote regions. It will not talk about the rest of the biases. So in that sense, I'd say if I were to compare, B is more holistic. It talks about more factors that led to the subjectivity or the biases, and therefore B becomes a better answer choice as compared to D. So for question number 11, B it is. Let's dive into the next one, question number 12. So it can be inferred from the passage that digital maps such as those of Google, okay, are subject to the same biases and subjectivity as were earlier maps. True. We can infer it from the last two paragraphs. They give an opportunity to users to modify maps according to their whims. This is something that is not stated anywhere, so can't say. They are generally inaccurate. No. Where does it say that they are generally inaccurate? They may have some omissions, but by and large they're still all right. And therefore we can call it false. D. Maps those of Google do not bother to map poor or remote regions. Yes, as they are not commercially viable. They don't map those, yes, but is the reason cited the fact that they are not commercially viable? So they're not. So if you look at the last paragraph, you'd get to know that yes, they are not covered, but then the reason is not something that has been given in the passage. You know, the reason in terms of commercial viability has not really been given. All that it says is that there are areas that the majority sees as unworthy of attention. So the commercial viability is not something that is coming into the picture here. So it's the second part which helps us eliminate it, and thus the best answer for question number 12 is going to be option A. So that takes care of our passage number 3 for mock 16.